Hello art people! In this video I'm going to teach you how to draw from any reference image. I'm using a polar bear as an example. So these are the steps on how to draw from a reference image. First, we're going to lightly sketch simple shapes and lines. Then we're going to change the shapes to be more like the sections from the picture. Then we're going to add value, then we're going to add details, and then you can add a background on your own. There's a book that follows these steps basically, and it's this book right here. So I'm actually going to use this book as to show you as a guide because it goes through basically the exact same steps. So I'm going to take this piece of paper. I'm just going to fold it in half. And this is going to be our reference image right here. So I'm just going to set this here for now. Alright, and I'm going to grab my pencil. And for the first steps, you want to draw really lightly because we're going to end up erasing these in step 2 when we change the shapes a little bit. So step 1, we're going to lightly sketch simple shapes and lines, which is really what they did right here too. Okay, so first we're going to draw, I usually like to start with the biggest shape, which is his body. So I'm going to draw a big oval for the body. And see, it's sketchy, which means it's a little messy. And it's light so that I can erase it later. Now I'm going to do this head. So I usually do the head pretty soon, pretty quickly on in the drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and do the oval for the head. Now we'll go ahead and use simple lines to connect the head to the body. I know this is a whole thing on how to use reference image, and I'm covering up the reference. So here's the reference image down here. And then, but this is helping us too. We're kind of using this as a reference image. Okay, and then I'm going to draw this going up, which shows me that I might need to bring this like that. All right, now these legs are simple shapes, but I'm going to make them even more simple. I usually like to do some of these shapes. And this here isn't really on my list. So I'm going to, instead of doing these for the legs for right now, I'm just going to do this rectangle. And then I'll change it in step 2 a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do a rectangle back here. Then I'm going to do I like to do the front stuff at this point. So I'm going to do this rectangle here. And they even have a nice horizon line here. I don't usually do the horizon line till the end, but you can draw that line if you want. It's just going to go a little further down. And then I'm going to do this leg. And then this leg. Okay, and then I'll do this shape as well. Good. So I'm done with my step 1. And I'm going to do step 2. So change the shapes to be more like the sections of the picture. And as I do this, I'm probably going to be erasing some of my sketch lines. So these will be a little bit more perfect. So I'll go ahead now and make this more curve. In and then out. And go in here. I'm going to make this line. I'm going to redraw this line. This time it'll be a little more curved. Curve. I'm going to go out, and then this is we kind of have a foot shape now. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So this curve goes in and out. I'm going to do this one now, more of an angle than I had it. And this angles down for the foot, and back up, and back in, and back up. And this one curves in and then back out for the ankle and down for the toes and back in for the bottom of the foot. And then this is a little bit more curved actually, so I'll curve this. And that's already pretty curved. And I'll go through here. I don't want to adjust this line. It actually ended up being perfect. So now, like I said, I'm going to erase the sketch lines from step 1 as I do this. So I'll go ahead and go through here and erase them. just the sketch lines from step 1, not the ones from step 2, the darker ones. I usually do step 2 darker. Put this in here. This is where understanding overlap really comes in handy. So anytime something is in front of something else, like this leg was in front of the back of his body, so I erased everything the leg was covering up. But we can look at our reference here and see, we do want to keep this line. And this can be a little bumpier here, actually. And we can adjust like the size of things at this stage too. This is where we kind of notice like, oh, I had that a little wrong, let me fix it. Like this was a little bit too far out, I can fix it. Because we drew it really lightly, because the first step is we draw really light. Clean it up. Once we have it all cleaned up, we can see clearly. Okay, that's good. Alrighty, so now we're going to go to step 3. My step 3 is to add value, or it's what most people call shading. I like to say add value for reasons. But in this book, they do like to add a couple details first, which is fine. We can do that actually. We can kind of skip to step 4 for a second and add some of these little details. That's okay. So we'll go ahead and add that ear and the eye. Add a little shape for the nose and the mouth. Okay, that's good. And this book also likes to add the toes at this point, which is also fine. So we're just going to do some curved lines here at the bottom. And it has a little fur here too. That's fine. I think that's okay. So now we're going to go ahead and do my adding the value, which is step 3. And they do that more in this last step, step 4. So we'll go ahead and add that. And we're just going to do it really lightly and kind of quickly. Because this in a way is like a sketch too, but instead of sketching lines and shapes, we're sketching value. So it can be a little messy too, and it can also be light in case we make any mistakes or want to go over it or refine it a little bit, which is just change it to make it more just like the picture or more accurate. Okay, and now I'm going to add my details, but I can also like clean up my value in here. Clean the shading up. So from my last video, I started out with the sketchy shading and then I went in and I cleaned it up a little bit. So see how if you go over it again, the lines that make it scribbly turn into a solid shape. So it looks cleaner. See how this one looks a little cleaner? And then you can also change the values too. So this down here is going to be a little darker. So I can just put a little bit more pressure on my pencil when I'm shading this down here. And then this book never really goes into like the next stages where you're like making it look super perfect and adding all sorts of details and making the shading look really clean. It's just more about like how to sketch, which is fantastic. It's a great book and I love it. But you want yours to be fully complete probably. So here's how you do that. And then for their detail, they also added like this scruff in here. So they did a zigzag on the lines to make it have the soft texture. Texture is usually a detail you add at the end. You're deciding how something feels and you add lines to make it look like that. That's called texture. So that looks a little bit more furry here now. See how this is furry? Sorry, that's my alarm. And if you wanted to do the shading with like a colored pencil, like a black colored pencil, instead of a normal pencil, that's fine. I like to make my drawings gray. I don't usually add a lot of color, unless I have to. So just changing these straight outlines to more zigzag outlines so it looks furrier. And I don't really have time to finish this up right now, but the rest is just adding the details and making the shading look cleaner instead of so scribbly is my last step. But I have to go teach a class. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!